Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the
Here we go. And we're live.
Yeah. Good afternoon and welcome to the Scrutiny Committee for People. I just need some housekeeping notes to read out to you before we go into the agenda. This Scrutiny Committee is being conducted on a live hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Election Wales Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council Standing Orders. Wow. The Council Standing Orders and Code of Conduct will apply at all times, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Thank you. A recorded version of the meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translations of the proceedings can be provided upon request. These images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Good afternoon and welcome. Nice to see you all today. And the first thing I'd like to do is to thank, on behalf of the committee, Councillor Chris Breeds for his sterling effort of chairing this committee and guiding it in the way that he did. And I know that, like me, you also wish him all the very best for the future. If we could note that. We'll move on to the agenda. Apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, please?
Yes, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillors Harvey, Jenkins, Marshall and Pink.
Do we have any declarations of interest at the moment?
Nope.
Minutes of the previous meeting on page 4. No, it's not. On page 3. And myself. And over on page 4. Do we have a mover agreeing then? No. Somebody can propose it? So Cabby, second. Yeah, second, thank you. Okay, as I said, welcome to everybody, and lovely to see you all here today. And we're going to move on to the first item, which is the midterm review for children's services. I believe that's yourself, Natalie, going to take us through that. Excellent. Would you like to start? And also the cabinet member, if you want to support or add or anything during that time, please do.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, it's certainly been a busy 6-month period with a number of successes and challenges. First of all, just in relation to our children's care provision, we've registered five-bedded home for children with disabilities, and another 4-bedded home which will provide medium to long-term care for children between the age of 8 to 18. We're currently in the process of refurbishing a further 2-bedded home, and that's due for completion by mid-2026. Fostering service continues to thrive, even though there remains challenges in respect of recruiting foster carers. But actually, in Newport, 87% of the population of children in fostering arrangements are being cared for by our own children, by our own carers in Newport. There continues to be delays, sadly, in relation to our care leaver provision, but the revised timetable means that we're looking to open again later on in 2026. Our children looked after numbers continue to remain steady, and we've launched a new co-produced community parenting strategy. I know that we had a bit of a launch down in main reception only last week, and we are also developing a number of opportunities for apprenticeships for our care experience young people. We are embedding our contextual safeguarding offer, and we are very much part of the Safe Places governance group. We are launching at the moment a transitional safeguarding model, because what we realise is that, you know, children don't just turn into adults as they reach the age of 18. So what we're looking at is working with our colleagues across the council, including our adult services, P&I, housing, education, and so on, to look at ensuring that children don't fall off the edge of 18, but our services and accommodation meets the needs of the most vulnerable. We have developed a Housing and Social Services Board, which again is looking at developing and maximising opportunities with our housing colleagues to support the most vulnerable cities, the most vulnerable children and young people in the city, because what we know is that the children that I see very often then end up in the world of adults, social care, presenting as homeless, or they are being supported by preventative services in prevention and inclusion. There are lots of achievements that are ongoing, and you know we've got further plans throughout the year to expand on those. But you know, there are still some staffing vacancies, although that's looking more positive than it has in previous years. The complexity of need that the young people are presenting with continues to rise, as does the number of referrals that do come into social services. And I think that is seen across people's services, so not just in relation to children's services, but adult services, education and housing. We do rely again on grant funding, which does present with some risks in terms of it being short-term funding, which doesn't allow us to plan for the medium to long term. But we do continue to innovate and maximise the funding as best as we possibly can. As you're aware, the implementation of the Eliminate Property policy change has increased the financial pressures on the service area, but we are working with our finance colleagues. We're working nationally, locally and regionally in order to develop internal provision in order that we meet that policy change by 2030. As you will always also be aware, one of the big challenges for us is the client's database that is used across social care will come into an end. So we are working with our colleagues across the council in order to, and across the region, to implement that moving forward.
Thank you very much indeed. Before we go through the body of the report, does anybody on the committee have any questions on the introduction there? Councillor Cleverly? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I had to turn my microphone on. Yes, it's just a query basically on the delays in the care leaver provision. Are they going into hostels or a place of their own, like a little flat or bed sit or whatever? It's just that query. And also about the project, the Mosaic project. I'd just like a bit more info on that, because I led it to be a mosaic, like a mural or whatever. So obviously it's not that, it's completely different. It's about replace the community care info system, that's all. And with the website you're using for the database, is it CEMP? C-E-M-P? I'll leave it to whoever would like to answer. Okay, so just in terms of the Mosaic system, we currently don't use the CEMP system in the children's social services. We use the WICA system.
and Mosaic is replacing that client database. So we will be transferring our data across to that new database. We've got a regional contract in place with Connecting Care. So our data will move across to the Mosaic system. But we can provide you with more information on that if you would like, Councillor Cleverly.
No, that's fine, thank you. Just wanted a basic outline on that.
Yeah, in terms of our care leavers, we've got we've got a number of properties that we use where we provide support. We also utilise some private providers in terms of providing support to our care leavers. This development was really to enhance the offer for our young people, and we are working, as I mentioned earlier, with our housing colleagues in order to develop further supported accommodation so that for our young people, so they're not falling off the cliff edge at 18, but where they've got you know, significant vulnerabilities, then we're ensuring that they're supported beyond the age of 18.
Okay, thank you for that.
Was there a third question, or no? That's it. Okay, Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. I got two questions or information which I'm looking for. You mentioned about staff vacancies. What are we doing in regards to recruiting to fill those vacancies? And are we using agency staff? And if we are, how is that affecting the budget?
Okay, so in terms of our social work staff, we've got very little use of agency staff. I think we may have one. I think we've got half posts, maybe 1.5 posts in terms of social work agency. And actually, currently, we're in a really strong position in terms of staffing vacancies within the core teams within social services. Where we tend to use agency staff, it tends to be when we within our children's homes, or when we are requested by the court or hospital to supervise some families and support some families within a hospital setting or within their homes. But generally, our core kind of staffing is not, there aren't significant vacancies there.
The other question, which you mentioned about using local housing authorities or organisations. How do you find they're being receptive in regards to that? Are they happy to support us, or have we got to really twist our arms and push them?
Yeah, so we're working with a number of RSLs, so registered social landlords at the moment, just in terms of looking to develop various different projects for vulnerable people. So they have been receptive to supporting us both in terms of offering accommodation to our 16+ cohort, but also in terms of developing our residential provision. There are some providers that are more receptive than others, but there are a few providers that have been, I suppose, providing this level of support in supported accommodation for a number of time. They offer this support not just to Newport, but across the board. And I suppose it's linking it with housing colleagues. That's only going to enhance that moving forward. They've got key connections with registered social landlords, which will assist us in the planning.
Okay, we're going to move on now. We're going to go to the report, to the meeting report, and we're going to start on page 4. Any questions on 4? Anything? 5? 6? 7, 8, 9, 10.
Nothing specifically on any of the pages, but how do the Natalie and the strategic director feel about the amber pieces which have actually been put on there? Do you think that you're going to get to the green status by the end of 26 or March 26?
I'll take that if you like that. You come in. I think there are a number of the actions there that are amber, and I think that they are longer term actions. So one of them, if you look at page 10, for example, that ensuring that all of our children have appropriate education offer. We're working really closely with our education colleagues to ensure that that is the case. One of the things that Natalie would want to highlight is that when children are looked after and we're bringing them back into Newport, we need to ensure that we are bringing them back to a good education offer, because if we don't do that, then their placements will break down and then they'll end up going back out into private provision. So that is a challenge, because of the complexity of the needs of the children that we look after. Will that get to green by the end of the year? I think that's unlikely, but what we need to make sure is it doesn't tip into red. And I don't feel, and Natalie will comment on this, I don't think any of those numbers are on the verge of tipping into red. We are working towards a green status, but maybe we won't be there by the end of the year.
Is that because there's not enough placements for the children?
I think that is in part, but I think there's plans in place that will take us, because this is the plans in place are over more than a 12-month period. So the implementation of those plans are over the next 3 years. So clearly some of these situations take longer to implement than others. So we're hoping that we don't have any red at the end of the year.
And certainly we review each of these I suppose actions, objectives every quarter. And what I haven't seen is when I'm monitoring each of the service managers will update their status, their action. What I haven't seen so far is that we've gone backwards. We're certainly going forward. And I suppose some of the granular detail isn't really within this document, but there's lots of work that's ongoing currently with education in terms of developing packages for our children. We're engaging with not-for-profit charities around how we can, I suppose, expand our offer. Can we work together to develop a residential provision and an education provision? So there's lots of pieces of work ongoing at the moment, because I think we're all aware that there will be an impact for our education colleagues.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on 9, 10, 11? I have one on 11, but I'm going to pick it up at the end under a different heading. 12. Uh, 13.
An observation that does the Natalie and the strategic director have any issues in regards to those figures there? Are they any of them which are concerning?
I can answer the question in terms of the number of children, number of referrals that are coming into social care. As you can see year on year, you know, there's an increase of at least £1,000, £1,000 referrals each year, which, you know, demonstrates the demands coming into social care at the moment. I'm reassured by our children looked after figures, because as you can see there, that despite the significant increase in referrals year on year, what we're seeing is a reduction of children coming into care. And I think that, you know, we can attribute that to, for a number of reasons, in terms of our prevention. So basically referring to our prevention and inclusion colleagues, but also looking at the prevention services we have within children's statutory services such as rapid response. So we're supporting families at the right time to prevent concerns escalating to the point in which children come into care.
One other thing I've noticed, Chair, is the last but one item on that page 13 is the total number of children looked after on service and our children experienced 3 or more placements during the year. Have we got any reasons why?
So just to note, the first move is so that when a child comes into care, that's classed as one move. So then once they come into care, that's a further, so it's another, they've moved twice then within that period within the year, just to clarify that. Yeah. But obviously we strive to keep that number as small as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
14, 15, 16. I read the case studies here. I'm pleased. I mean, it's nice to see that comments that supported rather than judged. I think that's a standout one. And the report increases confidence and willingness to seek help in the future. They're good comments. They're great comments. But to sit here and to read that's actually pleasing that we're speaking in that language. You know, that's just to say, you know, well done, I guess.
On the second case study, the Chair, it's got developing parenting skills and understanding child development. Do you have a special class, or do you set it up for the individual parent and child?
So in terms of our parenting offer, in terms of statutory children's services, because I know that in P&I it's slightly different, but referrals go in and then we look at you know, the needs of the individual. So there are groups that families can attend, but there's also bespoke packages. So some families will require one-to-one because they might feel intimidated within a group setting. So I think it's very much tailored on the need of the family.
That's what I was concerned about, Chair, that some parents are a bit nervous and what they're doing and not doing, whichever the case may be. Obviously, you've got the two, you've got the group and you've got the individual as well. Thank you, Chair.
It's a good observation, that, because we're privileged within a privileged place here, and when you deal with people who are not in a privileged place here, they do feel judged, and they do lack confidence in being in groups because they're judged, and it's getting over that barrier and to be able to get that confidence across is something that I'm glad to see, and I know from previous experiences or striving for, and as Councillor Watkins has said, it's good that you're offering the options and everything else. Okay, page 17.
I'd like a little bit more information about that, Chair.
Yes.
Say, please.
You can indeed.
Your awards.
Absolutely.
Could you enlighten us a little bit more?
Yes, so as you will all probably be aware, Newport was the first local authority in Wales to pass the motion of care leaves being a protected characteristic. And we were nominated by a young person, I believe, Jay, weren't we? We won the National Youth Advocacy Award. So we all, I suppose, taking that step. So we were the first local authority in Wales to do that.
Congratulate all of you who did it. Work hard for them.
Thank you.
Isn't that fantastic? And why aren't you shouting about this instead of hiding it in a report? Because it's such a good. Yes, I know. I've seen it there. I had it marked there, Lord. But there we go. I did have it marked. But it is something that you should be congratulating yourselves for. I mean, you must make more effort to tell us the good and to get that out there, because again, this is building confidence with clients who don't have confidence or trust in you. It's just adding the layers there and recognizing the day-to-day work that you do. You don't strive to win awards, they come to you. And you just found out you were awarded it by someone who was involved with the service. So you don't go to work to win awards. And yet the outcome was you did, and congratulations. So congratulations to the committee there as well. Big bold letters, thank you. Thank you, Trevor, for that. On page 18, yes, we're down here now. And on page 18, page 19, 20. I've got a couple of observations, questions, and probably explanations, really, I guess. The accommodation costs, post 16, the report throughout here highlights that there's a forecasted overspend of 1.5 million, and in the 16 plus accommodation, noting that the actual cost of accommodation a week is 1,709 compared to the budgeted cost of 783. So what I'm trying to look at is this price increase driven primarily by the market forces or provider scarcity? So the more providers exit, those who are involved in it still there, so they push that price up a bit. So, which then is linked into the eliminate for profit, which we all agree is a good thing. But hang on, it's causing you a problem because more people exit, price goes up. So, can you just, where are we going? I mean, this is the midterm report, and you have forecasted 1.5. That could go higher without any doubt at all. And so, as you're facing the budget reviews, can you tell me exactly what's going on? What is actually going on? And be honest with us, because we need to know.
Yes, so Chair, I'll start if that's okay, and I'm sure Natalie would want to step in. We've got a very clear plan within Children's Services about how we manage the eliminated gender, and that plan is about developing our own in-house resource, so we become less and less dependent on the private providers, and we are partway down that journey. And the hope is that by 2027 that we will have enough in-house resource, so we're not dependent on those independent providers, particularly for residential care for our children. So the reason why the cost of those placements are above what we have been able to budget for is because the complexity of the needs of some of the children that we need to look after have increased significantly. So the providers put their prices up in line with the, managing the complexity of those needs. But it is also linked to the fact that we have no option. They are the only providers in the market, and therefore we are forced to commission placements from them, which brings me back full circle to our business case that we don't want to be dependent on these private providers. We want to be able to develop our own in-house resource, which we believe is more cost effective. Still expensive because we need to provide good quality care to our children, but we believe it would be more cost effective in the longer term.
So what's your contingency plan before we get to the longer term approach, which I would call the utopia? That's where we want to be. What's your contingency plan now? Because it's going up, prices are going up. So you're over budget by 1.5 million as we speak. Your provider care, your average cost per week is almost gone up by £1,000. So you're almost well over doubled. Where's the contingency plan?
Okay, so we're obviously having some significant conversations with our finance colleagues and the executive about those plans, because ultimately we cannot not safeguard children. So we are overspending, absolutely, as you correctly point out, and there will have to be some conversations about looking at the existing core budget of social services core budget sufficient, and does it need to be, or can it be, through a number of different options which I believe are being discussed at the moment, can it be uplifted into the new financial year to meet that financial pressure?
And so next time we come back, we should have some answers to that at the end of your report.
Absolutely.
You should be able to tell me, well, hopefully, I'm not going to hold you to anything, because we can't talk about something we don't know about. So what we know is the price is going up, and it's going up. We know that for a fact, and I accept that. I accept what you're saying, but we know it's going up, and that's all we know. So let's deal with what we know yesterday.
I was just going to add to that. There are a number of other mitigations in place. So there are a number of forums that we chair, we monitor, we review every package of care within children's services. So we know that where we can drive down costs, then we endeavour to do so. If we can move children on, then we will do so in order to try and mitigate that as best we possibly can.
But I know that, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we're under budget reviews coming up soon, because budgets are being set. And one thing I want to do, like everyone else around the table and on screen, every one of them, they want to protect those that need protected, and they want to protect the services provided, and we want to ensure that there is enough money there to do so. And that's the object of this game. But we need to have it. We need to have it right, I suppose. Residential placement costs is something else. Although the target is 44, and I believe we're still there, there seems to be an overspend of 692,000. Are we seeing a trend? Is there a trend here? Is it becoming harder to source? Harder to source professional specialist provision within that overspend?
I think what we can say in relation to that overspend is that it's a similar picture, as in the complexity of some of the needs of a small percentage of children is such that the costs of their placements, of their weekly costs, are very high. But as Natalie said, one of the areas of the business, the Eliminate business case, is that we develop our own in-house provision to meet the needs of those children with complex needs, so we don't have to commission those high cost placements. So that is definitely part of the Eliminate business case. But it does take time for us to appropriately identify a property, for that property to be refurbished to the degree that it needs to be to meet the needs of those children. So we're still a way off, even though we know what provision we need, we're in the process of identifying those properties and then being able to refurbish them. So we're talking probably still 12 to 18 months down the road before those provisions will be up and running.
So the contingency plan to contain the overspend, how are we going to bring that down?
So as Natalie's already said, it's about reviewing those cases rigorously to make sure children are in the right placements, they still need to be there, they can't move on to a different placement that would meet their needs. So there's a lot of scrutiny that goes on around those individual children's cases. And alongside that, as I said, we are working hard to develop our in-house provision.
I don't think we have the cabinet member with us tonight. If I'm wrong, please shout at me. And I don't think I'm wrong on this first occasion in my life, I think.
We will make a note, Chair.
Yes, and it's very first occasion. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to. Is there any other questions on Children's Services report?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Forecast areas of underspend.
Yeah. Thank you.
Independent fostering agency placements, budget can afford 40 placements. Actual placements were 22 at the end of September. The forecast numbers are 24. Have we got an idea of why that is? Why did we forecast that so far?
I think historically we were utilising independent fostering placements, but given the Eliminate agenda, what we've been able to do is avoid using those at all costs and bring those children in-house. So year on year, we've gradually reduced the use of independent fostering agencies because obviously the cost of those is far greater than using internal.
So this is where the benefit of in-house is actually paying off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. One other question, Chair, on the next paragraph was Rosedale Children's Home Income Budget Amendment. You got the savings target of 151,000 and the variation of the same. What's the explanation on that?
So that's that, Chair. Sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Watkins, is that there's an income generation aligned to that particular home, whereby that we use one of the beds within that home to for use for other local authorities within Gwent to enable them to purchase a placement for a child. So
that's an income coming to the NCC.
yes.
How often does that occur?
So we have to get the balance we have to be very careful about this balance because what we wouldn't want to happen is for us to be, and forgive me for talking in these terms, so I don't like talking about selling beds and things, but but just from a financial perspective, if we were to allow another authority to use a bed, we have to be very confident that we don't need that bed ourselves, because otherwise we would be then having to purchase it ourselves externally. Exactly.
Hours compared with the cost of having in.
Yes. So where we can, we do try and support other local authorities, but we have to be confident that we won't be wanting to use that bed space ourselves in the foreseeable future.
Is that work on a contractual basis for X amount of months or 12 months or a year, or is it a rolling programme of every month?
There's an agreement at the beginning when the child is placed as to how long that will be.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes, good question, and honest answers, I guess. Yes, we're not in the game of providing care and selling beds. I mean, that's clear. So when we provide provision for other authorities, at what rate do we make a profit on them? Do we have an income increase to us?
So that's a very good question, and what there's the Association of Directors Company have just developed a memorandum of understanding that they're asking the 22 local authorities to sign up to, that we don't get into the waters of making profit from one another. However, we do have to cover the costs of delivering that service, because the Eliminate Agenda, which is the Welsh Government policy agreement, is to eradicate profit from children's care. So we wouldn't get into the waters of making significant profit from offering placements to other local authorities.
Do other local authorities offer us placements when they have them?
Yeah, they do. Yes.
Yeah, and the same terms and conditions for profit.
And this is the memorandum. In fact, it's come out this week for the 22 local authorities. There's been a lot of development work, so all the local authorities are well cited and in agreement, but the final version has come out this week to local authorities to sign up to.
Do you want to add to that? Do you want to explain further? Can you explain further?
It's simply a memorandum of understanding, just simply outlining what I've just described, that those arrangements that we will enter into will be not for profit.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's to make sure that a local authority doesn't make exorbitant profit out of other authorities.
Well, it can't make it can't be to apply
memorandum.
Yes. Yeah.
But the reason being, I think, is a number of courts will say to the local authority, the child is not to remain in your authority, it's got to go to some other authority. And sometimes it's a bit further afield than
yeah. It certainly is.
Yeah. That becomes costly to the local authority.
Yes, and it's all about yes, I'm not going to say anyone. Leave that there, you'll be careful. But thank you. And okay, on page 21 is done. On page 22,
21, Chair, I looked at the sickness.
1 minute.
Days lost has been reduced. Nice to see that. And obviously the pressure has been taken off to a certain extent, obviously, with the rest of the staff that actually were left behind the dealing with all this. It's nice to find that they'll come down. Be interested to see if we can get further next report.
I mean, it's in all in our interest to keep staff healthy and well. And that's the prime aim of this. For me, it isn't about driving sickness down, as I actually don't like the terminology anyway. Sickness days, I don't like the terminology right from my head. Just ensuring that staff are well and healthy, and you are right to note that, Councillor Watkins, and it's a good trend. The matrix is still keeping us in severe in places, and I just think we need to note that, and I think the cabinet member need to note those things especially when it comes to budget making time, because there's only one place we can go. Well, there's nowhere for us to go except down the chute. So we just need to bear these things in mind. It's a terminology of mine, so I don't apologise for it, but we know where we are with it. But thank you for the report, and thank you for.
Yeah, I got one more question, if I may. Yes.
And carry on.
It's the last. It's the last piece on page 22, really, and it says turnover rate, percentage of total workforce who have left over the last 12 percentage. We got percentage.
Not there, is it?
It's on page 21.
All right. That's the glossary I was looking at.
Yeah. So the percentage turnover rate for the service area in September 25 was 11.62%, which is a reduction from March.
The year has gone from 11.92. Well done, thank you for that observation, Trevor, because we're just making sure that Sam is been there and with a quick test, he's passed. Well done, Sam, he's passed. We're done. We're done. Nothing we've done. Thank you so much for your report and answering. If any of you, I don't know, if you can stay if you feel that it's appropriate. You can go if you feel that's appropriate. So whatever you want to do.
If it's all right with you, I'll just run quickly through what I've noted in that.
Please do.
I've obviously got our congratulations for the service on their award.
Yes, that's your the staff president.
Yeah.
Yes.
I noted the comments from the committee about the importance of consistent budget monitoring. And then just that the committee would content with the report. Is there anything anyone wants to add on that section?
I'd say we are content. We understand the report. Content is a different thing. We want this report. I mean, go ahead, but we want it highlighted.
Go forward as is.
Yeah, but we want it highlighted to the cabinet member that there are significant problems ahead.
Good concerns.
Yes, we have just good word. I love that. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Concerns.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, team. We just give them a moment to exit the room. The next up is adult services, and I think so.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, as you said at the start, really, I just wanted to just take a second to pay tribute to the staff that work in adult services, and it's thanks to them really that it's such a positive report. You know, they work every day to ensure that people's rights are protected and there's good quality care and support delivered across Newport. For the past 6 months, as reflected by Natalie, has continued to be extremely busy in line with recent years, managing high referral volumes. We've seen an increase in safeguarding reports. I think in terms of the strengths that are picked out in the report, so there's been a redesign of our hospital teams for Newport, our hospital social work teams. So as I say, we've redesigned the hospital discharge pathways, and our performance in this area is the strongest it's ever been in terms of supporting people to be discharged from hospital, working really closely with our health colleagues, and that's really thanks to the redesign that it's among the best performance in Wales in terms of pathway of care delays, they call it. So really timely, well supported discharges. We've received some grant monies under the pathway of care delays, and that's enabled us to have a task force, which is a peripatetic team which is moving from our front door and our main social work service, moving between to reduce any waiting lists or assessment delays. So that's been a really positive development for us. There's direct payments, so continued strong uptake of the direct payments offer. That's when people receive a payment to arrange their own care and support, with support from us as well. So our independent living strategy, that's a relaunch, because we have an existing strategy, but it's been relaunched, and there've been some really positive accommodation developments for people with learning disabilities. Stowe Park Circle, I don't know if you saw, it opened recently, and we had some pictures there which were shared on social media, and a lot of positive feedback about that, and that's enabled some people to return from out of county placements. And one of the case studies that we've included in the report is around that provision. You can see from that case study the difference it's making to individuals' lives. With one person there rather, who's actually started to speak again and to be able to verbalise, just from having the right support and being in the right accommodation. So, really pleasing for Newport and for adult services. Safeguarding, so there's been an increase in adult protection inquiries completed in timescale that you'll see in the performance information. We're continuing with things like our assistive technology offer, so expanding the use of that and engagement across all of our teams. Some of the positives around our care homes, so we've continued to have positive inspection reports and RI visits where we get really positive feedback from the people and their families. And also there's an example of how we've engaged with people who are having reablement in the report as well, and we had universally positive feedback about our reablement services, so that was really pleasing as well. So yeah, a number of case studies that we've included, because adult services does such a wide range of statutory duties, such a wide range of powers and areas. We've included it really we've included more case studies maybe than we have in the past. But yeah, just to show that breadth really. In terms of challenges, so demand and capacity pressures are really prevalent. As you heard, and again, more people approaching us for support. So when we talk about, although I say demand, what I really mean is people approaching us for care and support, really intense packages of care in people's homes, using a lot of equipment to keep people in their homes, which is what most people want, but it means that we're providing more and more hours of domiciliary care in the community. We continue to have some waiting lists for full social care assessments, but as I say, that investment from the grant has assisted with that. And as I'm sure you'll have in all the people services, there's budget pressures, and as we discussed in the discussion about children's services. I think, that's probably about it in terms of an overview. And happy to go through obviously page by page.
Okay, thank you.
Two questions in regards to the comments that you made. The pathways in the from hospital, you say that's been reorganised. Does that reduce the waiting and the assessment of patients coming from the hospital into our care?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it's done. So there's a lot of focus on the hospitals, rightly so, particularly at this time of year, although to be honest, the pressures are there throughout the year now. And we see spikes in summer when there's lots of staff in the hospital taking leave as well. But in terms of Newport's performance, it's the strongest it's ever been in those delays. So the Welsh Government asks for us to report on pathways of care delays. So how long people are in hospital for, how many people, are they there for social care reasons, are they there for health reasons, or are they there? So there's different ways of measuring it, but it's very closely scrutinised. And in terms of our Newport City Council performance, it's the best it's ever been in terms of hospital delays. So yeah, exactly as you said there, lower than it's ever been.
Are you working out of the Grange and the Gwent?
That's it.
What about patients who are from Newport have gone out of area? But how do you assess them in regards to that?
There's a number of different, obviously there's a number of different hospitals, isn't there? So there's the county hospital, there's the Grange, there's the Gwent, as you say. So we've got a regional offer in terms of our Home First team. So they cover all local authorities and they're based in the Grange. So actually, if you present at the Grange, and Joe Ascott's on the call who leads that team, service manager. But so they will see people from all over Gwent. But it's not unusual for our social work teams to travel to different hospitals as required. So if it looks like there's going to be somebody with kind of complex needs who's going to require support when they come home, it's not unusual for our social workers to work with the local teams, but to travel out of area where necessary as well. So they will do that.
The other one is care and support. Do you have much difficulty in the getting carers to support people who will come out of hospital, which basically they have their own financial contribution, which they can.
Thanks, Councillor Watkins. We actually don't in Newport have much difficulty in terms of finding domiciliary care. So we work with approximately 25 private providers. Okay. And we have really good relationships with those providers, and they obviously recruit carers. We also have our reablement carers, and we don't particularly seem to have recruitment challenges in that regard. Lots of local authorities do across Wales, as you'll be aware. Yeah, exactly. But we're in a fortunate position in Newport that we don't have delays while people await packages of care, and we're able to provide that to people relatively easily.
What about alterations to the properties for the individual coming from hospital and out of care? Is that an issue at all where we could possibly support with help?
That's a really good
alterations, like
and
that type of thing, which has to be put in place before the individual can come.
Yeah, that's a really good question because it spans across my area, but also Caroline's area in terms of prevention and inclusion. So we work really closely together. And last year we received some funding from Welsh Government entitled the 50-Day Challenge. And that was in relation to hospital discharge and ensuring our systems were working and we could increase capacity over winter. And we shared that money across the teams in recognition of, the larger pieces of work, as you said, there, stair lifts, sometimes through floor lifts and larger adaptations to property, which are always in demand. And then smaller adaptations that our OTs, our occupational therapists assess for. So I think, the demand is likely to always outstrip the supply, but where we see opportunities to kind of bolster the funding for adaptations through funding, it makes sense to do that because it makes absolute sense. And we've got an equipment stall that Newport City Council invests hugely in. It's a regional stall for equipment, and we invest hugely in that to make sure that people can access equipment, because nobody wants to be waiting in hospital for something that can be provided at home.
Whilst you're on that subject, I'd like to take you back, I think, a bit. I read in the report, I just need to establish in my mind, and for those people watching at home and even the press, the reablement care service shut, didn't it, for a while? It was suspended. Is it fully back open? That's the first thing. Is it partially open? Why did it close? Did it close because of I don't know, staffing, safety, clinical governance? Was it budget? Was it planned? Was it paused? Was it an emergency? reaction. So why was that service, if we start with that, because there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
First off, you could clear up those.
Yeah. So the first thing to say is a really important support service for people. Reablement is the key to delivering short-term intervention for people to get them back on their feet after illness, after a short impairment. So it's really important, and we invest a lot of time, resources, and it's a huge staffing complement in that team. So what we've been doing is conducting a review over the last 12 months of the service, with the intention to actually enhance the service and make it reablement focused in terms of outcomes. So looking at what people want to achieve and then planning carefully, a goal orientated assessment and plan with them. So what we wanted to do was take that service, and I suppose we wanted to get feedback from people about the service. So people told us that the service was really valued, that it was really important to them. But what we understood was that there were waiting lists for people, again, potentially from hospital and from the community, to go into that service. And we were considering actually, well, how can we make it as effective and efficient as possible? So in terms of the service closure, I'm happy to report that it's open at the moment to the hospital pathway. So it's open to people coming out of hospital at the moment, and we're carefully considering opening it to our community pathway and where it's best placed. So at the moment it is open to the hospitals, because you can imagine is a huge area of demand in the winter. The reason that it closed was twofold really. It was, as I say, part of the review and thinking how can we revise the model and work with staff. With any large service change, it's really important, as I'm sure you appreciate, to bring staff on the journey with you. And we felt that we needed to pause in order to do that and to actually closely monitor with the service manager and others, to closely monitor the people going into that service, so that we could actually say, when we work with people, this is how we work with them through that system. And with the demand and the waiting list that we were getting through, we weren't able to do that. Everybody had a service who was going into it, so nobody was left on a waiting list, nobody was left without support, and we worked really closely with other providers to provide reablement. So it wasn't that the service shut and people then didn't receive a service. It was planned in that sense, as part of our review for how we're going to reopen the service and relaunch it and rebrand it, I suppose, as well, in what we're trying to achieve.
So you paused the service, right?
That's right.
That's
right. Oh, absolutely.
That's the effect.
Well,
pausing it and closing it has exactly the same effect. But I understand the pause because you're not pulling the rug completely out. So that pause, what impact did that have on a hospital discharge at that time?
Well,
have we monitored that?
Thanks for that question, Kev, because this is a really curious answer I'm going to give you now. But we actually didn't see much of an impact in terms of, in fact, as I said, Newport is in the best position and has been continuously improving in the best position that it's been in terms of its hospital discharge. And so that's why we wanted to understand the impact actually of the service and thinking, well, and really looking and asking ourselves, are we working with the right people? So is the reablement care service working with the right people? And that's the question that throughout the review has been our overarching question. Are we putting our resources in the best possible place so we can get the most out of it for the people of Newport? Because we're investing hugely in staff, time and money and all of that. So I think, so it didn't have an impact, a negative impact, because we were still able to provide support to people. So in terms of our figures, it didn't have an impact on people's hospital.
So how long were you paused, in your words? How long did you pause?
Overall, it was no longer than 6 weeks, I would say. Yeah.
6 months. Okay. Staffing implications. The workforce was previously assigned to the re-ablement service. Have they been utilised? Have they been sent to the four corners of the earth? What have we done with them? How many do we pretend? Have they all come back in?
Yeah, so they never left the service, the re-ablement service. So what we've used is some of that time to complete things like mandatory training or to work with the staff to work on the pathways that they're going to have. They've also been in the middle of a move of location from one part of St Willis to another part of St Willis. So that's happened in the meantime as well. But we've really taken the time to work with the staff and the managers there so they can understand the aims of the review and what we're trying to achieve. They've still been working with people, so when the service was paused, they were still working with a number of people in the service. So they've continued to do that. And now, as I said, they've opened up to the hospital, so they're working with people from the hospitals at the moment. But there were no staffing implications in terms of that pause at all.
And when can we fully expect this service? Give me a date. Give me that date when we can fully expect the service to be fully operational again. Give me the date.
I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Okay.
Give me the money.
So the reason being is that there was a meeting only yesterday that we were both involved with to make sure that the reopening of the service is meeting the needs of the people of Newport, and that when we open it further up to different pathways, that it's the right thing to do. So I think what we were saying is that by the spring that we will be much clearer about the full extent of that re-ablement team. But we're learning as we go. As you will appreciate, you know, when you deliver social services, social care services, whatever that looks like, demand doesn't stay the same, needs don't stay the same, so we have to reshape our services frequently, review them, make sure that they're fit for purpose. And this is a prime example of one of those areas that we want to get it right. We want to get it right for the short, medium and the longer term. So, but I think it's going to be difficult to say, right, on that date we're going to do X, Y, Z, because what we will do is through the regular meetings is, how is that going? Do we need to change our course a bit further? So I'm reluctant to give you an exact date.
Okay, 2026?
Oh yeah, no, 2026, 27.
So we're 27. So
No, sorry, 26. I was looking at the phone, you know, on my calendar. I do apologise. We're 2025 now.
I was just about.
Yes, sorry.
Wow, right.
Just about.
Just about.
Use of my ears.
That's okay. So, okay. So in 26 we're going to be full, well, hopefully whatever shape it's going to be in, we're going to be fully operational. But not knowing what type of service we have, how do we know what budget we're going to be applying to it?
Well, all of that will be reviewed as part of the ongoing review about, you know, is this a good value model? Is there, can we use the staff complement in a slightly different way? So all of those things are in the process of being reviewed.
Yeah, and it's important to say they're part of a wider service with occupational therapists, physios, medics, nurses, and there's been no pause in terms of that. It was the carer service that was paused. But yeah, Tanya's right. We're looking to open that very early, you know, in 2026.
But everything needs a budget head, and as you said, we're heading into the season when we have to make sure whatever whatever the service looks like going forward, it is properly funded.
Definitely.
So we have to have some kind of idea, and I'll let you work that out with the cabinet member who's going to represent you as committee there. Okay, right. Thank you for answering those questions. We're going to move on. think where we were now, Kevin.
I'm on page 9 and 10. I don't know what it is.
Okay, and we're on page, okay, I'll stand there then. Don't know where I am. Page 11.
Question on 9 and 10.
Okay, then we go back.
Is no target set, but in fact it's on
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
Top.
Target
But
achieved.
there's no target. Is there any reason why?
Sorry, Canol, it's on my version, there is the first
Target
line.
performance measures. There's one target
Page 9.
on page 9,
Target achieved.
90%,
Yeah.
but there's no target on the rest of
On
it.
the rest are not applicable.
Oh, I see.
Then have they rejigged it again?
I think it is that there, as it said there, it's not applicable. So we wouldn't have a target about the number of new assessments completed because, of course, we would assess all of. It's about the demand that comes through the door. So we don't have a target of we want this number of referrals to adult services in the year, because you wouldn't want to put a number on that because you wouldn't want to preclude people from approaching us. So it is that's why there's no target.
Because you still got a record of who did and who didn't.
Yes.
Quite, so we can see the trends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for those. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. Okay. 15, just a couple of questions on 15. Budget variance 24 and 26, I guess. Forecast overspend 1.6 million, 1.67 million, 1.67 million in non-residential commission care, largely due to supporting more than 100 service users than budgeted. Is this increase in demand is it due to the baseline increase? Is it due to a post-pandemic issue? Do we need to look at a new baseline for it? What can you tell us about? And especially about the overspend.
Yeah, so,
I mean, that's big.
no, thank you, Chair. Yeah. First thing to say is that we are meeting all of our MTFP savings. So that's positive news. They're all on track, but you are right, we are overspent at the moment. I suppose I would say a couple of things, that we were underspent, and we have been underspent in adult services at the end of each financial year for the past few years, and that's because we often will get grants that then offset our core spending. But the point you make is a good one, that the reason that we are overspent on this in commissioned care is partly the trends of what I was speaking about at the start, where there's more people being supported at home, but with more intensive care packages.
Yes.
So as Councillor Watkins was saying, people do make a contribution towards their commissioned care, and that's set by Welsh Government, and it's the same for every local authority, but it in no way contributes towards the cost of our care. So we may be providing a package that costs £700 or £800, but the maximum that people can contribute is £100 towards that, and that's set. So there's nothing that we can do about that. So yeah, the intensity of supporting people at home is undoubtedly growing in the population. And as you rightly said, it's partly pandemic delays still, which I know sounds, when you say that, people think, well, the pandemic was some time ago now, but in terms of social care, there were a lot of people who just didn't have the opportunity to have their needs met at that point, and those needs have got more and more intensive. So we're seeing, as I said, much more intensive packages being delivered at home, sometimes of 4 calls a day. sometimes even more than that. So that would be the reason for. We've seen a steady but a decrease in the number of people in residential. So that shows the trend that actually we're supporting people for longer in their own homes. But of course, then you see the result of that really. That is the story of adult services and in common with lots of other local authorities.
One of the problems I have is we historically then tend to rely on grants coming in. You can't run a business relying on something that isn't there, and that's a finger cross. You can't do that, because what happens if that doesn't happen? If that don't happen, where are we then? And part of me wants to, I'm going to ask you the question, but you don't have to answer it just yet. Do we have a plan B in case it never happened?
So I think it's fair to say that the family and the team have a number of different projects that are underway to look at trying to reduce that overspend position. So reviewing, making sure that any sort of high cost packages of care are reviewed very, a bit like what we were talking about in children's services. So the oversight and scrutiny of all those packages of care, and also bolstering our preventative offer of services. The use of technology as well is something that we are taking forward, because we know a certain level of need can be met via technology, which might reduce the number of calls a person needs. It will never replace the physical care, but it certainly can reduce some of the demand. So all of those things are being looked at, and they are being driven forward by the team, and we anticipate that will have a positive impact on the budget. And Mavan was also mentioned that we have received some Pathways of Care grant this year from Welsh Government, which wasn't insignificant amount of money, and right now they say that will reoccur every year. The initial letter came that this is an ongoing grant forever. We know that we know how that
Grant forever.
I know.
Jesus.
But that was the narrative that was in the grant letter.
Now,
Mr. Hughes is engaged. He wants to come in.
Please, Jason, coming in, the cabinet member, coming in, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just important to put a bit of a context on both the reports, and probably the next one as well. I think, you know, there's always been shortfalls in funding, I think, in social care, and I think education are probably in the same position. I've been in social work 30 years, and I don't think I've ever seen a year where there's not a shortfall. And I think the context is that social work reflects very much what's going on in society. And I think, you know, what you have seen, and I think, you know, that our team have touched on it now, you've had a period of very difficult period during COVID, which has led to issues that are ongoing. You've had a cost of living crisis. You've had a long period of austerity where social services themselves have been under pressure. And I think all those things in society, you know, put pressure on social care, and they always have. And I think, you know, what we sort of, I don't think we're missing it. And I think you did touch on it earlier. You know, these are social workers, and they're often, you know, their voices aren't as big as their hearts sometimes. And I think, you know, what we're sort of not seeing maybe is that there's a huge amount of innovation in Newport, and a huge amount of adjustment using very creative means, and that sometimes involves grant funding, to adapting to new situations very quickly. And that puts us ahead of the game, and that's why you're seeing some awards coming through, and that's why you're seeing a lot of really good innovative social work practice going on. So I think, you know, it's not to take away that it's still an incredibly challenging time for social workers, but I think, you know, the overall trend, certainly in Newport, is about sort of adapting quickly. And I think, you know, on top of all that layer as well, we're also one of the fastest growing cities anywhere in the UK. And I think the speed of that growth also adds its own type of pressures on the city, because if you get a steady population growth over a significant period, you adapt slowly to that change. But what we're seeing in Newport is a very, very quick population growth, and a need then to adapt and grow very, very quickly to that. But I think the overall picture there is one, for me certainly, is a team that is adapting incredibly quickly, doing incredibly well, meeting its statutory requirements, which is the bottom line for social workers. That's what we're in the game for. We're a statutory sort of organisation, and they're doing that very strongly. And yes, of course there are pressures, and there always have been pressures, like I said earlier. But that's the picture that is being seen in Newport. Really, it's for me, it's one of resilience and innovation and getting the job done at the end of the day.
Thank you for that, Cabinet Member. The only thing I can deal with is what's before me, and I recognise what you say, but what's before me, and it's not my figures, it's the department's figures, is a forecasted overspend of 1.67 million, which takes me on to supported living costs. The supported living budget is overspent by 769,000, with 76 service users having a higher than average cost. So really, what's the primary drivers? I think I know the answer again, but I'd like you to tell me what the primary drivers for those costs are. Is it specific high cost packages of care? And is there an opportunity somewhere in the future that these packages could be more cost effective if they were delivered via such a new Stone Park Circle scheme? So a couple of things there.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Hughes, for those comments as well. I just wanted to say quickly, part of the commissioned care non-residential budget is part of looking at what is our short-term offer as well. So that is part of, can some of those people, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but can some of those people, do they have reablement potential? So rather than longer-term packages of care, can we use our reablement that, as we say, we've got already, actually to go in and review people and say, well, actually, can we support you to do this with us rather than doing it for you? So that's part of that thinking as well. In terms of supported living, so again, this is a trend that you'll see across Wales, and certainly is happening in Newport. A lot of the costs here are related to younger people with learning disabilities who've come through transition. So again, what Natalie is talking about, from children's services to adult services, quite often they'll have intensive support packages, one-to-one care and support required. Sometimes out in the community they'll require one-to-one, even at times 2-to-1. So you're exactly right. Can we make, although we're seeing those trends, can we make them ensure that the placements are as effective, efficient as possible, working with Myers, working with other providers as well, as we did in Stoke Park, and bringing people back. So I'm a big fan. If you do the right thing, the savings will follow. So for us, it's planning to do the right thing with the support, like reablement, and actually then the budget will follow. So reviewing, we've got a number of different groups being led by different service managers, looking at any high cost arrangements and thinking, does the person still need this level of support? And that expands the budget to shift the support elsewhere as well, where there's 2 or 3 people potentially living in a property. You can look at kind of resolving things through commissioning arrangements, through reviews, and all of that needs to be done in this financial climate.
How are we going to get overspent as we speak now by that figure of 769? Are we going to maintain that, or is that figure going to grow by the end of the year?
I mean, that's quite hard, quite a difficult question for me to
Okay, well, we're just maintaining it. Is it possible?
I think what I would sort of add, Chair, is that, you know, within social services, we deal with people and in situations which can be quite unpredictable. So as much as we examine the data and the intelligence that we have, there will be things that we couldn't possibly predict about people maybe moving into the area who then have high needs that we are then obligated on a statutory basis to meet their needs. So what we can say is that we're going to be working very hard to reduce that budget position by the sorts of things that Mavandri has said, by reviewing each of those packages of care, making sure that the needs of those folks who are receiving those packages haven't changed, and those packages could be reduced in some way. But equally, we might have another couple of people moving into the area who will need those needs. So dealing with the demand for people-led services is quite challenging.
Okay, I accept that. So people moving in, so help me here, people moving in who already have package of care from a different authority, so they're living elsewhere, they move into Newport. Are we responsible for picking up that existing, or does that package of care move with them?
Depends where their permanent residence is. So if they permanently move to Newport, in their residence, then it is the local authority where they are permanently resident. It's that local authority's responsibility to pick up the care needs for that person.
Okay. Did you do a committee? I mean, I'm interested in this. I don't fully get it. I don't fully get it.
Yeah, please. Example.
Yeah, please do.
We had something came up at the planning committee.
Okay.
About a daughter wanted to move her mother home closer, who was disabled.
Oh yes, we did indeed.
Then obviously the care package came to Newport, and Newport had to fund the care package.
Correct, you are right.
That's how it went.
But
then it was the other way as well, Chair.
Yeah.
When somebody with a care package in Newport was moving in next to a relative to look after.
I hear what you're saying also about you don't know who's turning up to your door, and I get that, fully understand that, and you know you have to provide that sort of service, but it's for the we have to manage the corporate risk. At the end of the day, it's the corporate risk, and we have to look at the budgets, and if we see the budgets expanding, you're expanding and adding to the corporate risk, which is already extremely severe. Corporate risk is severe. So when we speak and scrutinise you on the already overspend, as we speak now, 76, because it's the corporate risk. If something happens, there's no money, then we're all. You see what I'm saying? We don't want. I don't want to be sat here saying, you know, you had to cut back, and it was wrong. So that's what we're trying to do. Is trying to help you manage the corporate risk and provide that service. And that's what the cabinet members are actively listening in. And again, I mentioned because they have a big task ahead, which is their budget setting coming up. Well, thank you. I'm not going to question no more
from that.
Yeah, please.
It's something which raised in regards to a care package and alterations to a property in a social housing organisation. What happens when that individual in that property that required that care package and alteration no longer requires that, moves out, or whatever the case may be, it then becomes vacant? Do we get an offer from that social housing organisation for somebody else to go in there that requires that type of package, like a wet room, for instance, or a stair lift or something like that, which has been changed to accommodate the individual who's living there, but no longer requires it. So do we get offer that monthly?
I think we'd have to defer to our housing colleagues because they will have a system that the landlords will have they will have a system of people on waiting list for housing, and I'm not very well sighted on that mechanism, I'm afraid, as to how they allocate. You would like to think that they would match the needs with the property of the person because it's already been adapted, but I don't know the ins and outs of that, I'm afraid.
So one of the real life experiences I had on the same issue. So we had a resident living at home, wanted to become independent, fully grown adult, was on the waiting list, and a property came up, and it was already repurposed, and that fitted her needs, and so she was selected. As there was like a positive selection. You actually fit this need, and you've been on there, and goes into that property. So I think that is a mechanism for it, but it's a good question.
I've made a note, Chair, and I'll forward it to
Well,
the head
we
of
as NCC.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, for the NCC, get the opportunity for an input.
Yeah.
The social housing don't have a match.
Yeah, but then we don't have enough housing for these people. We don't any person, but anybody that needs assistance or some kind of that we just don't have enough accommodation. So when they come up, they don't stay empty long. I know that, and but still, yeah, great question, and. There we go. Okay. We're on page. I'm losing my way here now. I think we're towards the end of that one.
I think we're on page 16.
16. We are indeed. I've lost my papers, so please excuse me a second. Yeah, I have lost my papers. So I've done with them. Hello, page 16. Yeah, yes. I thought it was. Thank you.
Page 17.
There's a glossary on pages 17
Yeah.
and 18.
Yeah, it's the complaints data.
Yes.
Chair. Number of complaints considered and investigated resulting in complaint being upheld or not upheld. Did we have any major ones which we had to deal with?
What the page number? 16 is the workforce demographic.
Yeah.
Sickness and check-in.
So we're on page 13 with
Sorry.
complements and cost of living.
Oh, sorry, page 13, you say.
13.
Yeah,
I've got five.
I've got residents' involvement on 13, 46 of the agenda, 13 of the report.
Oh, sorry, we're on page 13. Right, okay.
The how?
Yeah,
That's how.
thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Page 13. So number of compliments and complaints.
Yes, complaints data. Are we looking at? So do we have any major ones that we had to deal with? Are there any outstanding?
So first thing to say is that our compliments are large in comparison to our complaints. Yeah, but I don't see complaints necessarily as a negative, and I do think actually that there's learning, isn't there, from each complaint. In terms of, we have different stages, so we have the stages set out by Welsh Government, stage 1, stage 2, and then people can take complaints to the Ombudsman as well. In terms of, you know, whether complaints are major, I suppose, yeah, as I say, each service manager would look at complaints for their area. They would think about the learning, quite often we will, investigate further beyond the complaint itself and think, is there any other learning that we can take? And, even base things like service reviews on some intelligence that we gather from complaints. So we do take very seriously. Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that much further.
No, obviously they're taken into account.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. We can improve.
They are. Yeah,
yeah.
For me, that is the main objective from the complaint, and obviously seeking, resolution as early as possible as well, and meeting with people and picking up the phone to discuss.
Thank you, Chair. That's all I have.
Okay. Are there any other questions? We move on.
Okay, Chair, I'll just go quickly through what I've noted as we've gone through. So obviously I've noticed that question about how housing matches the needs of those in social housing to live and stock. But aside from that, I haven't got any specific.
Well, we just noted that the overspends in this and the corporate risk. Is that pointed? Yeah, I'd be really happy to do it. Yeah. Okay, does anybody need any time out, any break for 5 minutes? Are we all okay?
I'm just grabbing a charger and carry on.
You are.
Not you.
You have no input into the next one?
No, Caroline.
Caroline,
Right.
Carol.
Yeah,
So
it's online.
you were free to go then, guys.
I'd say
You're still
Caroline,
staying?
if I may, yeah.
By all means.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for your answers.
Thank you. Yes, and also the adult service.
Yeah, so the adult service managers can leave the meeting if you'd like to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for attending as well online, those who are about to go off. And when we have the cabinet member Deb Davis with us, who is this is your portfolio, I believe, as well.
Certainly, prevention inclusion, very much focused on early years and young children. Do forgive me, I've got a dreadful cold, so my brain is a bit cotton woolish tonight, but I'll do my best.
Okay. Thank you for making the effort as well. That's you kept to last, as we say, especially when you're not feeling on top form.
No, it's fine.
Okay, Caroline, good evening, and nice to see you.
Good evening, Chair. Lovely to be here.
Welcome. Do you want to start this off?
Yes, I certainly can. So the report that you've got in front of you, I'm not going to read out page by page. We can go through that as a group, but just to pull out a few kind of summary headlines, really, if I may, Chair. So the first 6 months of the year for prevention and inclusion has been yet again really busy. The teams are continuing to deliver at pace a whole raft of activities and provision for significant numbers of residents across the city, and that's ranging from childcare, youth and play, adults living in their own home, people with substance misuse, domestic violence. It's a wide portfolio, and the teams are out there delivering at pace, providing multitude provision. We've been really proactive in the first 6 months. We're always looking for extra funding because we rely on grant funding, as you probably will know. We're always on the lookout for additional funding to strengthen what we already provide and also to broaden what we can provide. So the first 6 months we've been really lucky, and you were reading the report that we've secured some Safer City funding and some funding particularly around the violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence agenda, and I'm really pleased that we managed to achieve that so that we can bring the discussions around that difficult stuff for individuals, mainly women, but men as well, but significantly more women, and kind of creating those safe places for safe discussion much earlier and within their own communities before things kind of get to crisis point. So that's a kind of new pilot and a new concept that we're running at the moment, and I'm looking forward to being able to report more on that at the year-end report. We continue to push ahead with our childcare expansion. We are working, we're probably slightly ahead of schedule with West Government in terms of what areas we are pushing out into to expand, but we are slightly ahead of schedule, and we've been able to bring in 1 or 2 other areas into the expansion programme. We've also got to keep our focus on the expansion, strengthening the Welsh medium sector. So that is very much part of the conversation teams are having with the private sector as well, in order to develop and deliver more sustainable quality childcare places going forward. That is a positive piece of work. It's going forward really well, so nothing to note of any concern. We have continued really well to progress with our place-based care. And that is our approach within prevention and inclusion, to bring services and support to the heart of communities, so that we are pushing upstream. We're not creating barriers for people to have to access services. We want to be visible and present, and where residents can access services and support very, very easily. Now, we've made a good start already on Orway and the GEAR, and they are still developing to get to the full programme we want to, but they're going well. We've literally just recently now come over the line with St Julian's or Beechwood Community Centre, and we are working at pace now to refurb the St Julian's Centre and get that ready to start responding to some of the gaps that we've got in that area, particularly around childcare and youth and play provision. What that opportunity will also bring us is that wider wraparound of services that comes with prevention and inclusion and all of our partners. So we're really excited to get into that area, and we've been having really good discussion with the relevant members who are fully briefed and on board with that development. So that's going really well. I think what's made a difference for us particularly, we finally managed to recruit to a new team manager to really develop and push that work room forward, and I have to say she has hit the ground running, rolled her sleeves up, and she's just been pretty phenomenal since she's arrived, so I'm pleased to say that. And I think really where we're going as a service area is very much looking at in a much more deeper way and deeper analysis, at looking at what are we doing and where can we still push upstream, and where can we still be really curious in our thinking about what we are delivering and how we can do it differently and better. So it's not about resting on our laurels at all. We're all the teams are working really hard with the managers to really consider and question actually what more can they be doing, what different way can we be engaging with parents or families and individuals much earlier. A good example would be our childcare sector, for example. If parents are not taking up their places, what are we doing about that? What are we doing to follow that up and have those meaningful conversations with those families and parents to understand why they're not taking up their places, both from a parenting perspective, but also for the child's developmental opportunities. So it's really making sure we're questioning all of the right things. We're really keen around quality, so everything that we're doing, it's very much about quality, listening to the voices of the people that we're working with and the people that we're there to support, and really, really robust about having a no wrong door approach. So, you know, we try to make sure our services are as accessible as possible. And if we find that somebody has come through to us, you know, what we work very hard at is making sure that, oh, sorry, that's not for us, off you go. We hold them and we make sure that these people receive the right support from the right service that they are looking for based on their needs. So, you know, lots of achievements have been secured in the first 6 months, reaching huge numbers of individuals. And if you look in the report, you'll see some figures just from the summer activities alone, in terms of numbers of families and children that we're reaching. We remain positive and we remain forward thinking about delivering all of our services in support, and particularly when we rely so heavy on grant funding, as you will know. You know, what we mustn't do is allow that to steer us to become despondent. We continue to be forward thinking, we continue to be creative, and we want to be delivering the best services that we can with what we've got. And hopefully in the report that you'll see, some of those case studies will bring to life for you and the committee some areas of work that we are working on and constantly trying to push forward. So I'm happy to work through the report like my van way and take any questions.
Yes, tell the member first.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. It's greatly appreciated. I very much value the words that Carolyn said and completely echo those. You know, I think the key issue for us in regards to prevention and inclusion, it is what it says on the tin. It's preventing inclusion. It's working on that. However, as Caroline quite rightly says, it's wholly reliant on grant funding, which 96% of the money that we have in annually is grant funding. So it makes it difficult, but it's actually how we best utilise that funding. I think one of the most valuable aspects of my role as being cabinet member for education is actually making those links with early years provision and those links with our schools. So in as much as I visit schools regularly, I constantly make those links. So where schools want to reach out and actually work with families and engage, and they want Flying Start provision within their schools, I can actually work with the team to make sure that happens. Yeah. And I'm constantly making those links, seeing how we can actually better work with our youth provision, etc. It's really, really exciting that we're expanding our youth provision, not only into St Julian's, where it's greatly needed, but we're also going to have a flying provision as well, where it's identified that there are specific needs in a community, and those young people in that area may well need that additional support. So lots and lots of great things happening. I really value the fact with Family First, we're creating that we've got those links now, so easy referrals are made in, not just from schools but from GPs for wherever that need might be. So we're actually getting those links in so we can ensure those families get the best support they need. It is a really, really wide-ranging portfolio. It's really exciting, but actually what I do is it encompasses, my work is focusing on children from naught right through to adulthood, and it's about making that difference, and play is an important component of that as well. And the play sufficiency assessment work that's been undertaken this year is a really, really important aspect of that, ensuring that the right play and children included in that consultation process regarding what play looks like and what they feel that play ought to be in the communities that they live in. So loads and loads of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm delighted to see, and in my other different roles with the charity I work for, yeah, the Matt Brown and described here as a brilliant New Zealander, and he undoubtedly is, and she's not your rehab. Undoubtedly, a lot of the conversations I have with young fathers, young men, is around their emotional support, the emotional stuff that they're going through in life. And I love this. I haven't seen it yet. I'm due to get hold of it. The barbershop where men go to be healed. I mean, for me, I'm homing in on this specific part of the report, not excluding the other parts, because that has lots of champions, I just think for me personally, Captain Mandolman, we need champions for men, and because she's not here, rehab is such a big part of what we're trying to achieve with regards to the violence against women and the domestic abuse, etc., etc., because men need to understand their emotions. And I'm excited to see that some of the team have worked on this. I'm excited to see that this now is becoming prominent in what we are trying to achieve, instead of I suppose taking a stricter approach with men and say, oh, you're naughty, you shouldn't be doing this, with understanding why and giving them the tools to navigate their own life, and also the diagnosis, because a lot of these men are undiagnosed ADHDs, etc., etc. So this is a massive amount of work, and there's lots of suggestions that can come your way, and we'll write to you about it, I will, in a different capacity. But I just think that I too am excited by this introduction today. I'll leave it there. Anyone else, Trevor?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I got three things which I'm looking at, Caroline, and one is, are we planning to expand Flying Start, or getting involved in expanding that? The other one is, are there any vacancies which you are concerned about and need to be recruiting for? And the other thing is, what is your main challenges besides funding?
Okay, I shall do my best to answer all of those questions for you. The Flying Start expansion is a programme that is very much determined by Welsh Government. So it's determined by funding, and it's determined by geographical area that is determined largely by Welsh Government. So further expansion at this stage, I can't answer that. That will be down to you know, the way of Welsh Government and their decisions. However, what I would say is we are currently on expansion 3. And there are, as I've understood it, and I can double check I've got this right, but as I've understood it, there are not an awful lot of areas left now in Newport that are not in some way touched on by Flying Start, or even the Flying Start outreach team. So the outreach team will pick up parents and families where there's a need, but the Flying Start programme is not in their area just yet. So what we don't ignore those people. If there are people who are in real need, we will pick those people up through the outreach team. But my understanding has been that we are making great strides towards a universal offer, even though ultimately that's the Welsh Government vision. But further expansion is going to be subject to funding coming from Welsh Government, obviously. So that's that one, if that's okay. Yeah, okay. And then vacancies. Fortunately, we don't have an awful lot of vacancies in prevention and inclusion. You know, we have a very stable workforce, for which I'm very grateful for, you know, and they are very experienced at what they're delivering. So that stability brings an awful lot of knowledge and experience to the front door. Probably I would say the only one we're having a challenge with is our lead youth work officer that we've tried to recruit for, that we haven't been successful in. So what Councillor Davis mentioned about our new it's actually a detached youth work team, and that is a new model kind of that came out on the back of the Estin inspection that we had last year, where we wanted to move into developing a detached team. Now that, in order for youth workers to work safely and be out in the community, particularly in the evening, they need to work in pods, what we call pods. You're talking 2 or 3 workers at a time for safety reasons, and to be able to deliver interventions with any young person that they come across. So we have recruited 2 out of 3. The lead post there is probably the only one that we're struggling with. I know that Bethan, the team manager, has liaised closely with our new HR colleagues who have been brought in to help with more innovative and creative ways of recruiting officers with the skill set that we need. So I'm confident that's not going to be a long-standing issue. But I suppose what I would say is, out of a workforce of 350, 400, you know, to have only one real concern, I would say it's a pretty good position. So I'm not overly worried. I'm confident we will get that sorted. And I've forgotten the third question. I'm so sorry. What was the third one?
Funding. Not funding, but what's your biggest challenge other than funding?
Yeah, I mean, you know, funding is a constant challenge for us because it's always it predominantly grants funding, and as I have said in previous committees, the programmes that we are running are very big national programmes, and they are very big political agendas. So I don't hear, and I'm still not hearing anything from Welsh Government about anything being at risk going forward. Obviously, we're moving into an election year next year. We'll have to kind of test the waters and see where we are then. But certainly, as I speak, there is no threat to these funding grants that we get. Probably the challenge is, and it is a challenge, is that the grants do not get uplifted. So what we do not have is any kind of inflationary increases on 2 of our main grants, certainly. So what that means in real terms is that we have to spend more of the grants to sustain and maintain the workforce that we've got because of inflation and cost of living and pay rises and national insurance costs. All of those things have got to come out of the grant. So what that means ultimately is we either reduce the service and keep the workforce, or we have to look at reducing the workforce in order to maintain the front line. Now, what I will say confidently is that we haven't had to go into a space where we have to say, you know what, we can't afford to do this anymore. What we are doing, though, is that we're constantly looking at how we deliver our services and what we are doing with the budget we've got per team. So all the team managers are now very, very on board. You know, it's something we talk about all the time, about being innovative, creative, and managing your budgets in your budget allocation the best that you can. And I have to say, they do well. You know, we rarely have a position where any of our budget allocations are overspent. In fact, I don't think we do. If anything, we probably accrue underspends where we have vacancies and we lose staff are moving about and we just need to backfill and recruit. That takes time, and that's where we tend to accrue some underspend, which we will always look to make sure is realigned and refocused back to those services that need it in order to meet unmet need and where the risks are in terms of our families and children. So that's an ongoing risk, but I think we're very well versed. We've got wide shoulders in prevention and inclusion. We're very versed at managing that risk year in and year out. So in terms of any other challenges, I would say probably it's the demand. It's probably similar to the stories that you've heard from Natalie and Mavanwi tonight, is the demand. You know, we can't turn the tap off, and nor would we want to. You know, in public service, what we're there, our job is to help people and make their lives easier, better, more fulfilling, whatever's important to them. And I think, you know, it is our job to make sure we are out there reaching as many of those individuals as we can. And I do believe firmly the earlier we meet them, the earlier we engage and have conversations and get the support in place, does make a difference to how independent they can be for longer in their own life, which then ultimately should have an impact in a knock-on effect to children and adult services. And that's ultimately what I believe, and that's why I'm so passionate about, you know, we've got to be out there and we've got to be engaging with people as early as we can. You know, there's no point working with children when they're teenagers. We need to be working with them much earlier to help them develop into into rounded, safe people with fulfilling aspirations as they go forward into the world, so that we don't have this repetitive kind of generation trap, perhaps of people just going from benefit to benefit. You know, we want our young people to aspire, develop, have hope, have dreams, and have opportunities to have good careers or education, whatever that may be. So yeah, you know, it's a demand, and I think that is a huge challenge for all of us, probably across social services.
Thank you, Caroline.
Great, Caroline. Great. Thank you so much for that very comprehensive comment there. Excellent. So are we going on? I'll double on page 4. Any other questions? A couple of people online still with us, I see. Happy days. Nothing there. Okay, on page 4, page 5. Page 6, page 7.
Okay, I did put my hand up.
Okay, there we go.
On page 5, it says develop a campus of visual and accessible support in Bettis.
Yep.
Can I ask where this will be?
So what we're talking about there in Bettis is we're talking about the community centre and the library building. So obviously you'll be familiar that there's already some provision there, but what we want to do is really bring some new energy, I think, into those areas, a bit like what we've done with the Orway, the Gare, and what we're just about to do in St Julian. So that Bettis will follow St Julian. That's the next step that we will be taking, Councillor Cleverly, and that you will be brought on board to have some of those discussions with us. Brilliant. And help us to
that sounds absolutely excellent.
Right stuff.
It will be well needed.
Absolutely.
As you know, yes.
Yeah, I promise you, Janet, you and your colleagues will be fully involved. Okay. All right.
Very well.
Thank you very much.
No
Bye.
Okay, thank you. Page 8. I'm sorry, are you Jason? Are you waving, or is it just?
No, I was just.
No, good. That's okay. That's okay. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to miss you out. You know. That's good.
You,
that's okay. Thank you. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, page 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and page 20 and 21. Thank you. There's no question there. Thank you very much indeed, Caroline, for taking us through that, and to the Cabinet member as well. It's a very comprehensive report, lots of positives in there as well, and we'll see you again soon.
If you like, Chair, just to say, I've only
Thank you
noted.
very much, Chair. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, guys. Bye. Okay, over to you now, I think.
Yes, just on to me.
I think you can.
You could, yeah, you can absolutely escape.
Yeah,
I'd like to.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you very
Very
much.
welcome.
Oh,
Nice to see you again as well.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Okay, you drop something.
I don't think so. I've got a very noisy chair.
You'd like to have a chair.
If it's already too I keep it brief, but thank you, my section.
Thanks,
Yeah. so slightly different than the usual pack in that there's only 2 attachments to my reports. The first is our usual forward work programme. I will request, Chair, I will send an email out to the committee asking for some feedback about committee timings and hopefully we'll have something to share
Yes.
in the next meeting.
Yes, we will.
Secondly, my summary report is attached that details the actions and outcomes for the last 6 months the committee have made and requested. I'm really happy to say we have no outstanding actions and all our recommendations have been accepted and updated, so quite positive there. There are some ongoing actions, but they're longer term work, so nothing to worry about. Our next meeting is for the 9th of December, so in a week, and that is for the Education Services Mid-Year Review.
Time for that, Samantha?
Same time as today,
No,
so
what do you
happy
think?
for a committee start for reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all from me, Chair.
Okay, well, I think looking at my agenda, I just have, and thank you. That ends the committee meeting. Thank you for all those who attended in presence and all, and those online as well. So thank you very